I'd like to think for a few minutes about capitalism versus Marxism, socialism, communism, lumping all of those together, and think about just in general, not a formal academic review, but just looking at some of the points that I gleaned over time, looking at and listening to different economics professors and others, and just the try to summarize some of the points that I think are creating a backdrop of problems for us today, as I see it, in the context of dealing with our economy and some issues that we need to address in order to help correct the picture of capitalism and Marxism as understood and try to set us on a better path as a society as a whole. So, capitalism versus Marxism, socialism, and communism, some key issues. So, let's first consider what it is, the backdrop, the roots of capitalism. Capitalism is a relatively recent formal economic theory. Adam Smith was a product of and leading contributor to the Scottish Enlightenment in the 18th century. The theory of moral sentiments is his foundational work in which he outlines a model for individual development in society, and it's important to keep in mind that this is the context in which he's developing his theory of what becomes capitalism. In 1776, an inquiry into the nature and causes of the wealth of nations was published. His better known work, the foundational text for modern capitalism, can be expressed in the social and moral framework, or when expressed in the social and moral framework outlined in his A Theory of Moral Sentiments. So again, his idea of capitalism is an economic approach, an economy that is operating in a particular moral context. The roots of Marxism and its derivatives, socialism and communism. And so I'll primarily be referring to Marxism going forward and looking at just the broad umbrella of economic theories and social theories that developed out of Marxism. But Marxism, Karl Marx, the 19th century, was a product of a society engulfed in the first 100+ years of the Industrial Revolution. If we date the beginning of the Industrial Revolution to around 1750, and the first 50+ years of the application of Adam Smith's economic theory. So Marx is coming on the heels of what it has been an unparalleled increase in productivity and population growth in the history of the world. Marx as a philosopher focused on the social ills of his day, ills that he defined as a direct consequence of the capitalist enterprise, which ignored, according to him, the plight of the masses in favor of the lying few, based on his review of the history of mankind's struggle for existence as individuals in community. And so it's important to keep in mind that for Marx, what is primary is not the individual, but the community, as we'll talk about in just a second. His philosophy lies at the root of most of the anti-capitalist theories that developed over the 19th and 20th centuries through today, and indeed anti-Western thought in general, as related to the economic, social, or religious foundations on which the West has been built. So let's think about a few points as we compare capitalism and Marxism. In capitalism, the individual is a central unit of existence developed in the context of the society to which he or she has been born. Obviously, the individual coming into the world as a baby is totally dependent upon and begins to develop an understanding of itself and the world around it in the context of a family, of a community. But the individual is ultimately seen as being the central unit of existence, becoming, as an adult, responsible for making decisions about what he or she wants in the context of the world in which he or she is living. For Marxism, the group or society is a central unit of existence, framing the context in which good individuals are developed. So in Marxism, it's the group or the society as a whole that is most important, and individuals are themselves inherently good, And in a good society, in a good group, they will develop into good, productive members of that society, of that group. In capitalism, moderated self-interest is the best means of ensuring maximum productivity to the benefit of all. In capitalism, coming out of a Christian framework, the assumption is that individuals are born sinful, born pursuing uh, their own interest in a pursuit that is in fact against ultimately their own interest. But the idea is that the self has to be controlled, moderated self-interest, in order to achieve something which not only is a benefit to the individual, but ultimately a benefit to the group as well. In Marxism, directed labor is the best means of ensuring willing production to the benefit of all. The individual, his or her own desires are presumed to be geared towards the good of the group as a whole, and when the group is properly structured, those desires for the interest of the group will be manifest in a context in which the individual does as he or she is able. In the famous summary from Marx, from each as he is able to each as he has need. So the idea in Marxism is that individuals are inclined to do good, the idea being that if individuals don't do good, it's because of a corrupt society. And so in a good society, a well-organized society, which is primary, the group, then the individual will have a role, find a place, and work to the benefit of all. In capitalism, individuals in business will work to fulfill the interest of their customers in order to stay in business to meet their own interests. So one of the central ideas behind capitalism is that given that human beings are self-interested and motivated to meet their own needs, there's a way in which we can organize ourselves as a society to both take advantage of and limit the damage that can be done by individuals who are working in their own self-interest. In Marxism, individuals in business are working against everyone else in pursuit of their own greedy ends. Here we get into the division of the haves and the have-nots, the bourgeois and the proletariat. The idea that those who have more than everybody else have more than everybody else because they have taken advantage of others and are using their power to perpetuate the imbalance in distribution of goods that results in a society of goods. In capitalism, the assumption, as demonstrated, demonstrated, as presumed today, is that government inherently works against individual success as it seeks to justify taking what it does not produce. The role of the government should be limited, and anything that government does, it has to do so using resources that it takes from the individuals and the community over which the government presides. The government itself is not producing anything. It is providing a context in which individual production can take place. The material that is produced by individuals has value. The government provides nothing of direct value, even though the indirect value may be necessary in order for individual and businesses to function securely and safely. The government itself has no means apart from the means that it is able to secure from the individuals and businesses over which it governs, either willingly or unwillingly. According to Marxism, government inherently operates best when it operates to ensure equal outcomes for everyone. And the assumption is that government, in fact, is good, that the government, at least until we get to the final communist phase, where everybody is just equal across the board, in the meantime, government is going to work to create a social structure in which everyone will realize the benefits of the society, the group of which they are a part. Some other thoughts on capitalism and Marxism. Capitalism in particular. Capitalism as practiced in the U.S. today has lost sight of the need to curb individual excess by maintaining an overarching social structure in which individual success can be realized and community good can be fostered. Throughout the history of the U.S., throughout the history of the West um, post the work of uh, developing capitalism as an economic framework for society as a whole, there have been periods of time when the distribution of the goods produced has resulted in an oligarchy, monarchies in business, etc., where you have a few benefiting, it would appear, disproportionately compared to the rest of society that is involved in producing the goods that society produces, and the degree to which capitalism is built on a framework of individual morality and social moral order. If that individual morality and that social moral order is lost, then capitalism ends up working against even its own interest, the interest of those who are doing the things, creating the frameworks, the products that are providing things that everybody else wants. Marxism, however, both originally and as expressed in its various forms today, ignores the fundamentally selfish nature of individuals no matter where they are operating, in business or in government, and presumes that either governmental authorities will make decisions that are in the best interest of all, or that the masses will make the best decision irrespective of individual consequences. So while capitalism has built into it an aspect, as originally framed, an aspect of moderation for individual tendency to excess, to selfishness, Marxism tries to act as if there is, in fact, no individual inclination to individual excess or selfishness, and just says that if we can get everybody on the same page, then everybody will work out of the goodness of their own heart and contribute to the good of the whole. Capitalism properly exercised will afford the greatest opportunity for maximum benefit for both society as a whole and individuals within society. When there are the proper restraints in place to curb individual tendencies towards excess, towards greed, etc., then society as a whole will benefit as the individuals within that society benefit from by reaping the rewards of their efforts. Crony capitalism, which describes much of what we have today with the military industrial conflicts and government captured by large corporations, which ignores the social dimensions of business and community, will result in both the destruction of opportunity for individuals and society as a whole. Crony capitalism, whether it's the direct connection between business enterprises and governmental institutions, or whether it's the indirect connection whereby not monarchies, that's the term I used earlier, but it's the wrong term, monopolies, whereby monopolies are allowed to develop and competition is stifled. Whenever you have that going on in capitalism that abandons the safety net of social responsibility and individual moral or ethical guardrails, then you have a situation in which society as a whole is threatened and the benefits that individuals are seeking to realize in society are threatened as well. Marxism, however, applied on a small scale and limited settings, works as demonstrated in the basic structure of the family, or for a short time in the case of finite resources, as evidenced during times of war or responding to natural disasters. And we have very few left today who were directly involved in the events of World War II and how America was marshaled to respond to the demands of World War II. Not very many who seem to have any sense of history or appreciation for history and what went on in the context of World War II. But apart from those particular situations where you have an overarching threat that requires a more Marxist socialist approach, or the context of the family, where children contribute nothing positive for a long time to the family resources and yet are provided for. Apart from that, there is really no evidence that Marxist analysis of history, society, individuals is accurate or will result in a positive framework by which society at large can be organized, given its failure to properly understand human nature. To assume that human beings are good and will do well in the right environment, and we just need to get rid of the bad players in today's environment so that the goodness of human beings in the present and future generations can be manifest, is to set oneself up for disaster, as demonstrated in every um, country that has claimed socialism as its guiding principle, Marxism as its guiding principle, communism as its guiding principle. So Marxism, I would suggest, fails from the outset because it mischaracterizes the evidence of history, human development, and individual will and individual being, how we are structured as individuals. Whereas capitalism has in the roots, in the foundation of capitalist theory, the correct ideas, which in fact can be overrun by those who seek to take advantage of the basic framework of capitalism. Capitalism misapplied may make Marxism and its related theories appealing, but the end of Marxism has always been, and always will be, the stifling of the masses for the benefit of the few. Capitalism properly applied will result in the greatest opportunity for the masses and help for the few who are unable or unwilling to live in accordance with their potential as human beings. To appeal to those who are living in poverty, to appeal to those who are struggling to make ends meet, to live life in the context in which we find ourselves today, as a justification for abandoning capitalism and adopting a Marxist socialist approach, is to ignore the clear testimony of history. To appeal to capitalism as practiced today as the right way to organize society is to ignore the degree to which capitalism is practiced today has abandoned the moral roots, the moral foundations on which the capital enterprise is intended to be built. Thank you all very much. I look forward to hearing what you have to say. And I thank you for your time. Until next time. Bye bye. Thank you very much for your time. I've got a couple other videos listed here if you'd like to take a look at those. And as I'd like to discuss issues related to politics, religion, society, and how in the world we're supposed to understand ourselves and life in the world. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Bye bye.